the soils are very influential on which grapes are grown there. Cabernet being a late ripening variety needs those stony soils, which are warmer than the clay and limestone soils on the right bank. And obviously Merlot is an earlier ripening grape, so it does fare much better in those types of soil conditions that you find. So it's sort of finding their own niche as needed by Mother Nature. What about
Exactly.
what about any similarities between the two regions? We always talked about them as being quite distinct, but do you see similarities between the two?
Well, first of all, the grapes are all, there are similarities in the sense of the fact that there's Merlot on the left bank as well as on the right bank. Some people on the right bank are using increasing amounts of Cabernet Sauvignon. Why? We'll get to that, but it has to do with climate change. So there's this overlap of grape varieties. I'd say they're now both of these regions are equally popular among drinkers, whereas quite a while ago, Pomerol was barely even known in the US. It's hard to believe that now, but it's true. I would say the similarity is ambition. They're hugely ambitious winemakers on both banks, and experimentation, which once was much more a powerful force on the right bank, is now, I think, equally distributed. We can get to climate change later and how that's affecting the two areas differently. But those are some of the similarities between the two. And of course,
Good.
they all age wine in oak, or most of them. Their wines are made in a lot of very similar ways.
Right. And in the book, you mentioned the fact that each side, left and right bank, have influenced each other. How has that been a factor in what they do in each part of the Bordeaux region?
Well, let's first take organic and biodynamic methods. I would say that the right bank was quicker to embrace the ideas of organic and biodynamic farming. And in fact, the first biodynamic wines in Bordeaux were on the right bank in Fronsac with Paul Bar and up in the Côte de Bourg and so on. And you could say that the reason is because the properties are smaller, and people could they didn't have ownership that wasn't intimately involved in also the growing. So if someone wanted to take that risk, it wasn't like they had to explain to an owner that maybe you're going to lose your crop. So I would say that that influence has been felt, of course, now on the left bank, where really a surprising number of very big properties have adopted the principles of organic and biodynamic viticulture. And a lot of them, I think of Ponte Canet, they turn to someone on the right bank to advise them. So there's one example. I think the whole idea of experimentation and also really went from the right bank to the left bank. Maybe some people remember that in the 1990s, there was this group called the Garagistes, who on the right bank were completely sort of anti-tradition and felt that even in a piece of land that hadn't been class Grand Cru, that piece of land, if you treated it with a lot of care, could also produce great wine. These were the people who were experimenting also with 200% new oak. So not all the experiments were really that great, in my opinion.